Watch out, boy, she'll chew you up. Oh, here she comes. She's a man eater. Oh, here she comes. Watch out.
Now that's what I like to call the original man-eater song, okay? I don't know what Nelly Furtado was singing about much more recently than this man-eater song. That, of course, is Hall and Oates. On this day in 1982, they began a 4-week run at number 1 on the charts with that song. I don't know if Nelly Furtado went to the top of the charts with her man-eater song, which wasn't a cover. It was just a song by the same name. But that's the one that we all remember well. I know you do. From this day in 1982, a number 1 for Hall and Oates. Good Wednesday morning. It is the 18th of December, or to put it another way, it is 1 week from Christmas Day. Are you kidding me right now? 1 week today, at this time, we will probably be on to our second, if not third cup of coffee. There will be wrapping paper all over the ding-dang floor in the living room. Boxes will be opened. Kids will be making noise with all their new toys, and we'll be thinking, we survived. At least that far. Then, of course, the family comes later, and oh my goodness gracious, 1 week today is Christmas Day. Hey, thanks for stopping by. Speaking of Christmas Day, thanks to my buddy Kirk, and I use that term loosely, buddy, who sent a gift, and so that's why I have to think, at least in some respect, he's still a buddy. You can see it for yourself on our Facebook page, facebook.com/The Mike Farwell Show. It is a T-shirt that says, yes, it is a Christmas movie. And I will let you guess whose picture is on the front of the shirt. We know, of course, it's not a Christmas movie. And as was pointed out by Jay on Facebook, Farwell, why do you go through this every year? And I said, well, that's what we do at the holidays, right? We have traditions. We know it's not a Christmas movie. We know some people like to think it is. Just because you put it on a T-shirt does not make it a Christmas movie. So there's that. We are being denied today, for reasons I cannot explain, a little Christmas present of our own. And I'm struggling to make sense of this, but a last-minute, 11th hour, as in 20 minutes ago, cancellation by the leader of the Federal Conservative Party, Mr. Pierre Poilievre, who was scheduled to join our show this morning at 11:30. I apologize for what is now an erroneous social media post, leading you astray. I didn't mean to when I recorded that video earlier this morning before about 8:30. Mr. Poilievre was still scheduled to be on the show. Why he would pass up the opportunity to continue to pound on the Prime Minister, who's having a bad enough week as it is. I mean, this is an opportunity. It's a layup, as you might say, in the business. But for reasons that have yet to be explained to me, there is no interview today with the leader of the Federal Conservative Party, which I find very curious. Maybe he doesn't want to talk to you. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't want you to hear his message, which is a pretty simple one. I think you've probably heard it by now. Axe the tax, among a few other catchy little slogans. But we will expand on none of them this morning because at the last minute, the Conservative Party pulled the plug. How disappointing. But we will soldier on with the show today.
It's the final countdown.
And as we do that, soldier on, we begin at the beginning because it's the very best place to start. Your Farwell Show 5 for this Wednesday morning. Number 1, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau addressing Liberal Party members at a Christmas party last night. That, of course, would include now former Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland.
It's hard not to feel happy when we're like this, among Liberals, among family, because that's what we really are, a big family. Now, like most families, sometimes we have fights around the holidays. But of course, like most families, we find our way through it.
Trudeau did not address last night his future in that speech. Federal Conservative Party leader. Oh, wait, I made a note that Pierre Poilievre was going to be on the show this morning. No, he's not. Number 2 on your Farwell Show 5. I'm like Anchorman. I just read what's in front of me. I wrote those notes, and now they've changed. Number 2, new polling in the U.S. shows Republicans hold an overwhelmingly positive view of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and most also approve of President-elect Donald Trump's decision to include Kennedy in the incoming administration. Kennedy will likely be in charge of the Department of Health and Human Services, despite his controversial views around vaccines, food additives, and pharmaceutical drugs. Number 3 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, 2 students from the University of Waterloo were killed in an airstrike in Gaza last Thursday. UW says the twin sisters, Sally and Dahlia Ghazi, were planning to come to Waterloo to do their PhDs in system design engineering. Number 4, the Kitchener Rangers are on the road tonight in Sarnia, and they'll be there without Justin Bottineau. The third-year forward was traded yesterday to Guelph in exchange for a 5th-round draft pick. After tonight's game in Sarnia, the Rangers return home Friday to face Ottawa in their last game before the Christmas break. And number 5 on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, it was a milestone hockey moment in Iowa for a Kitchener kid and former Ranger.
Travis Boyd at the right-hand circle to his backhand, a save and a rebound. They score! It's the first AHL goal for Matt Sopp.
That's right, Matt Sopp, his first American Hockey League goal, helping the Iowa Wild defeat the Rockford Ice Hogs 5-1. Sopp was also named the game's first star. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Wednesday morning. We'll take a break. Coming back with your morning wake-up call, which might just be a wake-up call to activists in Kitchener. Maybe, just maybe, it's not the loudest voice that always gets its way. We'll talk about it coming up. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. There were a couple of interesting reports at Kitchener Council this past Monday, and I wanted to shine a bit of a brighter light on them. One of them was regarding the future of the Queen Victoria statue in Victoria Park. You know a couple of things about that statue, I think. One is that it has been doused in red paint on multiple occasions. The other is that there are some pairs of children's shoes in and around the statue, which is part of an art installation that weaves its way through Victoria Park in Kitchener, which is the Every Child Matters crosswalk. And then it shows also from that crosswalk the orange footprints throughout the park. And so from that crosswalk and those footprints come those pairs of shoes, which are a part now of that statue, that display, if you will, a little bit of an art installation. And staff in the city of Kitchener is recommending that no further action be taken on broad public engagement regarding the future of the statue. And in fact, for now, the statue should just be left where it is, as it is. And what the city will do is explore the opportunity to develop a commemorative public art installation that honors local Indigenous history and promotes an understanding of the impact of colonization, as well as working to bring the community together in the spirit of reconciliation. There were a couple of delegates at Monday's council meeting in Kitchener speaking passionately about why the statue should be removed. There was also a gentleman that spoke in favor of the statue remaining, warts and all. I thought Ward 10's Stephanie Stretch, Kitchener councillor, asked a pretty interesting question of one of those delegates.
It's my understanding with some of the other monuments, for the example that I'm thinking of is the Mohawk Institute or the Woodlawn Cultural Center, Now, there was a group of people who thought, like, get rid of it, burn it down. And through some of the relationships I've built, learned about some advocacy from Indigenous people to keep it there as a symbol of, don't erase it or pull it down, but have it there and let's look at it and learn from it and try to heal knowingly about that. And I'm just wondering, does that line of thinking at all resonate with the Queen Victoria statue for you in Victoria Park?
The answer to that was no. The statue causes harm, brings harm every time that it is passed, seen, or otherwise viewed. But I think it brings to bear an interesting part of this broader conversation. There is truly no single solution to all of this. Everybody is not going to agree. So, do we then, because if we remove the statue, everybody will not agree with that, including, according to that question from Councillor Stretch, some members and institutions within our Indigenous communities. So we don't have unanimity, and certainly we don't need broad consensus, but because there seems to be no broad consensus either way, why not just leave the statue where it is and engage in that development of an art installation that the entire community can be a part of as a means of moving towards reconciliation? I think that makes a whole heck of a lot of sense. And maybe it just reminds us that the loudest voices, the most critical voices, are not always heeded here. Maybe if you're throwing paint on a statue in a park, you're a vandal. And that's the end of that. So I think I like the direction that the City of Kitchener is moving in this. It seems to me to be a thoughtful approach. Connected to that, and didn't get as much attention at the meeting, but you may also recall an effort on the part of students at Grand River Collegiate in Kitchener to have Indian Road renamed. See, the school, Grand River Collegiate Institute, is actually on Indian Road. And the students expressed that this causes harm and they wanted the street name changed. So again, the City of Kitchener undertook a public engagement process and determined in their conversations with Indigenous groups that there are actually a number of problematic names in the City of Kitchener: streets, parks, buildings, etc. And maybe what we need is a broader renaming convention that would address concerns holistically rather than a series of one-off token projects. And so what the city decided to do is leave Indian Road as it is, understanding that for Indigenous students at Grand River Collegiate, attending a school that's located on a street named Indian Road does not create a safe school environment. So what the city is suggesting is, why don't we readdress the school? So the school's address is on Heritage Drive as opposed to on Indian Road. And the city will work with the school and its staff to assist in the process of readdressing just the school should they wish to do so. The students are disappointed in this, but the city says we're not going to one-off this sort of thing, and we'll continue the conversations about more place names in the city. But for now, Indian Road will remain just that. And for those students at Grand River Collegiate who struggle with the idea, maybe they'll go along with the plan of readdressing the school's address to Heritage Drive instead of its existing address on Heritage Road or on Indian Road. These are the things that occupy time in our cities today. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. Couple minutes away from our update in the 570 News Center. Let's get to the phones. We love hearing from you on the show. Doug, good morning.
Good morning. Why doesn't somebody ask these Grand River students, who I was a student there the second year it was open, what's so derogatory about the word Indian? we have a place in the government that's still referred to as Indian Affairs. Columbus was going west looking for a shortcut to Istanbul, known then as Constantinople, because that was the trade center of the world. The East Indians brought their tapestries, their spices, and whatnot, and they brought down tin and iron. And going through the center of the Mediterranean is one of the most treacherous places in the world to sail. So when he got there, he discovered all these people that didn't go with a nationality because they didn't have nationalities. They had tribes, and each one had a different name, and he wanted to identify of something, so he called them from the place of where he was going to so he could trade directly. There's nothing derogatory about that whatsoever. We can all hail Queen Victoria. Who wants to do away with the May 24 weekend? That's her birthday. She named our capital. It was something else prior to that. She had like 9 children, 42 grandchildren. She named our capital because Kingston and Montreal was too close to the border during the War of 1812. We can thank her that we're not all Americans.
All right, Doug, listen, historical perspective appreciated. I get it. And listen, the students at Grand River Collegiate are going to have to figure out another way to deal with their concerns, at least for now, around the current name of Indian Road, because the city of Kitchener is not making that change. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. There are a couple of things we know right now about Wilmot Township. One is the draft budget proposes a whopper, a 51%, I mean rounded up, 50.87%, call it what it is, a 51% tax increase. That's what is proposed for Wilmot Township next year. And at its meeting this week of Wilmot Township Council, Ward 3's Javier Sadu tabled a motion asking for an historic analysis of previous budgets in the township to try to better understand how the township got to this financial position. And Councillor Sadu joins us on the show this morning. So let's just start, if we can, Harv, with the motion itself. Why was this a motion that you wanted to bring forward?
Well, it's a good question, Mike. This is something I saw in Norfolk, so it is something that's been done before. And in Wilmot, we find ourselves at a bit of a crossroads right now in a critical time with our finances. That staff are proposing a 51% increase, and I thought now would be a good time to help illustrate to our residents and explain how we got into the situation. So, for more transparency and to give more information for our public, for council, and for staff, I thought now would be a good time to present this motion.
On that note of the 50.87% or 51% tax increase, what was your initial reaction when you saw that number in the draft budget?
I'll be honest, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was to this extent, and I didn't know this was going to be the proposal brought forward by staff. Truthfully, I thought it was a typo when I first read it. I had to go back and actually do a deep dive and look at it. I understand we're in a tough financial position, but to ask that this be remedied overnight in 1 year, I think that was too much of an ask for our residents at this time.
You are going to be hosting a town hall with residents on January the 2nd. What do you hope to accomplish with that meeting?
Yeah, I'd like to hear from our residents. This will be the first official town hall I'll be hosting. I've been trying to get it set up throughout the summer. The timing just never worked out, and with budget season coming, it just felt like the perfect opportunity to hold a midterm town hall, speak about some of the challenges we've faced as council, some of the wins we've had, and ultimately I want to hear from our residents. I want to hear their concerns and hear if they have any suggestions moving forward, because ultimately I work for them, the township works for them, and they are the owners of Wilmot Township.
moving forward is an important turn of phrase here, I think, in this conversation, Harv, because when it comes to the motion, as I get back to that, asking for this report to look historically, going back more than a decade, to kind of figure out and provide that transparency about how the township got here. But do you feel there's value in looking back on how we got here as opposed to just moving forward and dealing with what's in front of you?
Absolutely. It's twofold, Mike. A, we need to understand how we got here so we don't make the same mistakes twice. Something like this doesn't happen overnight. It's cumulative. So there's certain decisions at certain times that get us to where we are now. So if we have a comprehensive document that shows us essentially analysis of what type of decisions were made, how they were made, and what led us to where we are now, we can ultimately keep that in the back of the mind so we don't make those mistakes twice. And second, if I'm going to be going to my residents and staff are proposing a 51% increase, and they ask the question, why? How? I can't just say, you know what, don't worry about it, don't worry about the past, let's look forward, it is what it is. No, we need to be able to explain to them how we got in this mess and why we got in this mess. So it adds for further transparency, and I firmly believe that our residents deserve to know how we got here.
I know the motion passed, albeit not unanimously at council this week. What will the scope then be of the report that's been requested of staff?
Yeah, so ultimately I was hoping for a unanimous decision. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, but it was able to pass. My original scope was for the past 20 years. That got amended for up until from 2011 to now. It will give a historical context of large ticket items, spending habits, key decisions, and give us an analysis of essentially what happened and pulling all this together and grouping all this together so we have it in one report. So it's essentially a one-stop shop for residents to be able to read and review and understand.
It's going to be fairly extensive. Are you worried the amount of work that is? Are you worried at all about the strain this puts on staff at Wilmot Township to get a report of this magnitude prepared?
Yeah, that was one of the concerns brought up from fellow councillors. I must admit, I chuckled when I heard the number of it'll take a few hundred hours. I think that's a bit of a stretch, Mike. We have more than capable staff. The data is already there. It's buried in our financials. It's essentially an exercise of taking the data out and putting it into a report and then giving a high-level analysis on top of it. So I don't suspect it'll take a few hundred hours. And ultimately, there is times and places that we need to use our resources to see and implement them in places for reports like this. So it adds for further knowledge for the residents.
So the hope is that this will be ready, the report, in Q2. So summer of 2025 would be the hope that we see this report?
That is the hope, yes, Mike.
Okay. And then obviously before that, Harv, you have this 51% tax increase staring you in the face. What kind of reassurance can you give residents about your willingness to, use the cliche, but roll up your sleeves and work this number down?
So, Mike, I'm one of 6 votes on council. I can only speak for myself. When we got elected in 2022, it was October of 22 and November was our first council meeting. We ultimately had a budget come forward to us, which we were the first council in 18 years to push back on. So we had the presence of mind, even though we were all brand new, we had the presence of mind to push back on it and say, you need to redo this and come back to us. There was a time when they brought the third ice pad, and it was going to come in at around $17 million. I raised my hand and said, wait a second. The math is not mathing up. Or do we need this right now? Can we afford this right now? Just imagine if we had passed that, the $17 million ice pad on top of all this that mess that we have right now, 51% would look like peanuts compared to that. And also, last year, I actually voted against the budget because I didn't think it did enough to address the financial issues that we had. So I am more than willing to roll up my sleeves. I will not be passing this as a rubber stamp. I'm not going to take it at face value. There needs to be a lot more work done. We need to look at potentially service cuts, find more efficiencies. I know they say that scrape to the bone. I need to be able to justify if we need to do a tax increase by at least rolling up my sleeves and taking a fine comb through the budget and seeing if there is any efficiencies that we can find first.
Harv, I really appreciate the time you've given us on the show today, and it's an important explanation about a big budget number. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike, and you have yourself a Merry Christmas.
You as well, sir. We'll talk again. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Harveer Sidhu is the Ward 3 councillor in Wilmot Township. His motion passed, albeit not unanimously, at Wilmot Council earlier this week, asking for an historic analysis of previous budgets, previous financials in the township, so that the council of the day and the community can have a better understanding of how the township got into the dire financial position it finds itself in today. A proposed 51% tax increase. I will maintain again that the only way, please, Wilmot Council, listen to me when I say, the only way to address this, if the need really is that great, is with a 2 to 2.5% special levy for the next 20 to 25 years. You cannot ask the residents in Wilmot today to shoulder all of this in one fell swoop. That's just not the way it works, nor should it. Now, the question of the morning, of course, is whether or not looking backwards in Wilmot and getting this historic analysis does any good moving forward. As I said, it was not a unanimous decision. Councillors Martin and Dunstall voted against asking staff to prepare this rather exhaustive report. What do you think? Is it worth looking back to figure out how the township got here? Or should they just look at the number in front of them and figure out how to deal with it? Perhaps, just perhaps, they can do two things simultaneously. Your thoughts always welcome on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio.
If I'm going to be going to my residents and staff are proposing a 51% increase, and they ask the question, why? How? I can't just say, you know what, don't worry about it, don't worry about the past, let's look forward, it is what it is. No, we need to be able to explain to them how we got in this mess and why we got in this mess. So it adds for further transparency, and I firmly believe that our residents deserve to know how we got here.
Ward 3 councillor in Wilmot Township, Harveer Sidhu, explaining why he believes it's necessary to have this report. That's why he brought the motion forward to take an historic look at the township's finances. Now, Sidhu's motion did pass. However, not unanimously, one of the councillors opposed, Steve Martin, who had this to say about the idea.
I still am not really in favor of this motion because of the concern that I have for the amount of time that it takes for staff to prepare the report. I realize I respect my colleagues' concerns and the interest expressed in the information. The information is, of course, important. Having lived here through this time, I remember comments like years ago, let's keep our taxes low. And so I think decisions were made that reserves were not built and things were deferred. Even since we've been elected, we've deferred things, including roads. And so I see the trends, and I think we can look at the history without putting the onus on the staff to prepare such a large report.
The staff will prepare that large report, though, due out hopefully by summer, dating back to 2011. Is it a worthwhile exercise? You tell us. Let's go to the phones. Rory, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Mike. How are things?
Good, thank you. And you?
Good. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. And yes, I actually support Councillor Sidhu's motion. I don't think it's a bad idea to, have a report that helps council and the public have a greater understanding of some of the ways that we have or have not spent money wisely or increased or decreased taxes wisely. I also agree with you, Mike, that there is a huge road ahead of us today. And 50%, 51%, whatever you want to call it, I call it irresponsible. And I think maybe we have a bit of an inexperienced, director of finance. We have an interim CAO who happens to be the same individual. And quite frankly, it's probably not all their fault either. But decades of, I think, probably fiscal mismanagement by the previous mayor and CAO. I'm looking forward to see what the report is, Mike. There's 6 months for them to come up with something. So, unfortunately, it's not before this budget, but there really needs to be some heavy hearts around that table. And quite frankly, when the CAO and director of finance says there is no fat on the bone, well, it may be time to chew into the meat, Mike.
All right, Rory, I appreciate the analogy. Rob Deutschman, regional councillor, good morning.
Yeah, hey, good morning, Mike. I just wanted to say I do support Councillor Sidhu's motion to get more information. When you have a staff that drops a 50%, 51% report on you with really not a lot of notice to your council, and the community wants to know what happened, it's right for council to direct staff to prepare that report and see what occurred. I don't believe it's mismanagement. This is the thing. It's difficult for politicians or elected representatives because for people that they're just ordinary people that decided to run and now they have to deal with financial matters. And it can be quite difficult. And I think it would be very instructional and informative for people to understand what happened. And I think other councils would learn from what's occurred here, because when I was mayor of North Dumfries, I came to a council where some years before me, we had 14 or so years of zero tax increases. And I mean, there's lots of people that will talk about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think generally it's not a great thing. But this would be an excellent opportunity to learn, and I think other municipalities would find it very informative too. And I think it's incumbent on staff to understand what the politicians have to deal with, because we're the ones out there communicating with the public, and we need clear and precise information, and that's what Harv is trying to get, and he's right to get that.
Rob, thanks for the call and the explanation. Interesting that Rob brings up those 0% increases, which we heard from time to time in Wilmot Township. Generally, I'm not sure why we don't just target increases to inflation. Like, of course, there's no such thing as zero. The township is paying more for any number of things, or the municipality year over year, right? But why don't we mandate that, shouldn't the direction from council be increase to inflation? That's it. Figure out how to make it fit, but inflation is our target. Quick break. Back with more. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. Just 1 minute away from your update in the 570 News Center. More on the 51% tax increase in Wilmot. Kathy, I'm sorry, I've got 60 seconds, but I'd love to hear from you.
I can do it.
Okay.
I was a taxpayer in Wilmot Township. I was a taxpayer in North Dumfries when Rob Deutschman was there. And during the Deutschman years, taxes did go up. But I had a lot of friends in Wilmot Township. Theirs didn't seem to be going up. We used to joke, I should have stayed in Wilmot Township. And that goes back quite a few years ago. I'm sitting on a KW record story, end of August of this year, where the Director of Infrastructure Services was talking about the road situation that Councillor Steve Martin mentioned to you. And they are having to resurface roads. And they talked about taxpayers expect to see an increase between 1.5 and 3% for necessary road maintenance over the next future years. That is one scenario. The other one is to do all the work on the roads that has been deferred, and that would cost up to $4.8 million.
Well, and that's one of the numbers that's floating around in the budget. I believe it's $4.5 million on capital costs, including transportation networks. Got to get you to that update at the 570 News Center. And then continuing the theme, what tax hikes are you facing as an Ontarian next year? We're talking about it on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. New year, new you. New year, New Year's resolution. New year, tax changes. And thanks to our friends at the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, we know what those changes will look like in Ontario. I will also note, while we know what those changes will look like, I'm not saying we're going to like them. Jay Goldberg is the Ontario director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation and joins us on the show. Good morning, Jay.
Good morning.
What can we expect here in Ontario moving into 2025 as far as income taxes are concerned?
Well, for most Ontarians, you're actually going to see provincial income taxes go up, and that's because the provincial government doesn't adjust some of its income tax brackets with inflation. So as you get a cost of living pay raise, that could push you into a higher income tax bracket. So for lower income Ontarians, the low income tax credit, which lowers the income tax bill for those making less than $60,000, that's not moving this year, and so folks making less than $60,000 this year are going to face a tax increase, an income tax increase of up to about $100, and those making above $150,000 are also going to face tax increases because those brackets are not moved. If you make between $60,000 and $150,000, your provincial income taxes will not change.
It almost makes you feel like not trying to earn more because you just end up paying more out the other side.
Absolutely. You know, $150,000 used to be a lot. Now it's not quite as significant as it used to be. And when the bracket was introduced a decade ago, that was a very different scenario than it is today. And so, you know, it really hasn't been moving to keep pace with inflation. Other provinces move that bracket as well. The federal government moves that bracket. So just generally the idea of not moving any tax bracket, whether it's for lower income Ontarians or anyone else, with inflation to make sure that people who are just getting a cost of living pay raise aren't facing a tax hike, I think that's wrong, and we need to make sure that no one pays more taxes just because they're getting a cost of living pay raise.
One of my favorite Ontario taxes, and I say that sarcastically, of course, is Ontario's health premium. I've honestly never forgiven Dalton McGuinty for that tax increase because he came to power in 2003 saying he would not raise taxes, and then he immediately implemented the premium. And I guess we're supposed to be fooled by it not being called a tax. But what can we expect in 2025, more than 2 decades later, as far as the Ontario health premium is concerned?
Well, this is another one, the health tax, that does not move based on inflation. And so if you're pushed into a higher income tax bracket, you're going to be paying more in health taxes. Ontarians are the only taxpayers in Canada that pay a consumer health tax. It's charged as a surtax on your income tax bill, so most people don't actually realize they're paying it, but you're paying anywhere from $300 to $900, and the bottom threshold has never changed. So it was introduced by Dalton McGuinty 20 years ago, so that if you make $20,000 a year, you're all of a sudden paying a $300 health tax. Well, that hasn't changed in 20 years, despite the fact that incomes and cost of living and inflation has changed significantly over the past 2 decades. So you have folks that are making wages that are below the poverty line that are paying this health tax. Again, we think it's wrong. I've been calling for the government to scrap the health tax the entire time I've been in this job. I think it's wrong to be taxing people in this way, and this money doesn't actually have to go towards health care. That's the other thing. They call it the health premium, but it just goes into the government's general pot of money. It's not necessarily dedicated to health care. So if every other province can do without it, Ontario should too.
How, Jay, will changes or increases to federal taxes impact us here in the province of Ontario?
Well, payroll taxes are going up. That's one of the key things. So that could cost workers up to another $403. That's if you add up the Canada Pension Plan and employment insurance contributions, which are going up next year. Of course, the carbon tax is going up. It's going it's going up to about 21 cents per liter of gasoline. Right now it's at about 18, so you can expect a 3 to 4 cent per liter increase of price at the pumps. You can expect a more expensive home heating bill because, of course, you have the carbon tax on home heating. You can also expect that to cascade through the economy because of shipping and food. We're going to see an alcohol tax increase. That's going up by 2% on April the 1st. And, of course, we have a short sales tax holiday on certain items from the federal government, including pre-prepared groceries, diapers, and car seats. But that's going to go away in the middle of February, so taxes will be put back on to items like diapers and car seats and pre-prepared food at grocery stores on February the 15th.
It's an old, well-worn phrase for a reason. I recognize that the only two things in life that are certain are death and taxes. But why is it, Jay, that taxes are as high as they are in Canada?
Because governments simply aren't efficient with our tax dollars. They announce more and more spending and increase taxes time and time again without cutting costs. You know, a recent survey came out from the Fraser Institute that showed that here in Ontario we're spending $20 billion a year, giving money to wealthy corporations like Stellantis, like Volkswagen. At the federal level, they're spending more than $40 billion giving money to corporations. We've got in Ontario a regime that gives taxpayer dollars to political parties. You've got programs at the federal level where you're seeing, for example, $18 million of bonuses going to CBC executives. So there's all kinds of small and big reasons why governments are wasting our money and they're turning to higher taxes to pay for it all.
Jay, I know we interrupted your day at very short notice. Really appreciate you making time for our show again. Thank you very much for being here and enjoy the holiday season ahead.
Thank you. My pleasure. And you as well.
Jay Goldberg is the Ontario Director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. And it's on that last point that I really wanted to focus. You can read the entire report if you are so inclined. It's not exactly what I would call light or uplifting reading, the 2025 New Year's tax changes, but it's available online at taxpayer.com. I feel like I come across as disingenuous when I say this, but I mean it sincerely. I believe firmly, 100%, in paying my share. I really do. We have to. We look at taxes as being so bad and evil and awful, but really they are investments in our community. They are. But I feel as though, or what I struggle with is, again, to that last point Jay made, I'm sorry, but I have lost confidence in the idea that what goes in to the government coffers through our taxes is managed even remotely, efficiently and effectively. I mean, we were just talking earlier this week about the $1 million trip to Europe in the summer with more than $70,000 spent on food. I'm sorry, but no, you are not entitled to your entitlements. $1 million bonuses to CBC executives. How about the public service that has grown by about 40% under Justin Trudeau's watch? The number of employees at all levels of government, quite frankly, that we are paying to support, I have a difficult time with. I really do. I want good hospitals and good health care. I want us to take seriously the homelessness crisis and the food insecurity that's impacting this country. I do. I want to be a part of the solution for that. But the waste that seems to exist, I find it difficult. I really do. Your thoughts, though, as we head into a new year and some tax changes that come with it. Am I just a cranky old guy complaining about taxes and shaking my fist at the imaginary government cloud here? Or is there a reason, do you think, that people are a little bit weary at this point? Would love to hear from you on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio.
Just generally the idea of not moving any tax bracket, whether it's for lower income Ontarians or anyone else, with inflation to make sure that people who are just getting a cost of living pay raise aren't facing a tax hike. I think that's wrong, and we need to make sure that no one pays more taxes just because they're getting a cost of living pay raise.
Jay Goldberg is the Ontario director of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. He joins us to talk about the tax hikes Ontarians are facing in 2025. And remember, this is your provincial tax increase, which is in addition to your federal tax increase and, of course, your municipal tax increase. We were just talking about that municipal tax increase at 51% in Wilmot Township for next year. That's what's proposed right now in the region at our upper tier municipal government. They are working with a number that is just under 10% right now, trying to get it down further. Council meets again this week, right? Is it today or Friday? Can't be Friday. Anyway, Regional Council continues to try to get the number down to a number that they feel more comfortable presenting to the public. And at the lower tier municipal level, Kitchener has come in the lowest to date at 3.9%. Cambridge is at 4.7%. Waterloo was over 6%. And the beat just goes on. From the report that the Canadian Taxpayers Federation has put out looking at the tax hikes in 2025, there will be higher income taxes on Ontarians making less than $60,000 because the Ontario government has not adjusted its low-income individuals and families bracket to inflation. There's also the Ontario Health Premium, which begins at $300 and rises as high as $900 based on income. And then when you look at the federal taxes that impact us here in Ontario, there will be the payroll taxes, because the feds are raising the mandatory Canada Pension Plan and employment insurance contributions in 2025. For the record, I support that. I think it's a good idea if we can't save the money ourselves. I know in theory the idea would be, right, let me hold on to my own money, thank you, and invest it how I see fit. I don't think we're doing such a good job of that. So I'm actually okay with that part. The carbon tax is going to increase to about 21 cents per liter of gasoline, 25 cents per liter of diesel, and 18 cents per cubic meter of natural gas. So if you heat your home with natural gas like we do, that is going to have an impact on you, as well as, of course, the vehicles. And if it's diesel and it's going into a transport truck, you know that those costs will be passed on to us with the goods that are shipped via transport trucks. And then, of course, the good old alcohol taxes, which will go up 2% on April the 1st. This is the escalating tax that comes around every April Fool's, and we wish it was the joke, but it's not the joke. In fact, it does go up every April the 1st, another 2%. Something that came across my X feed yesterday when I was ragging on the Prime Minister a little bit for being more of an egotist than a feminist, it was pointed out to me that maybe this is what happens when you have an out-of-touch, centrist party full of politicians who have no clue how to connect with average Canadians. And Chrystia Freeland is very much included in this list. And while I agreed with the idea that there seems to be little understanding of how to connect with average Canadians, I certainly didn't agree with the idea that this federal Liberal government was in any way centrist. To which the response was, I do believe these Liberals are centrist with neoliberal policies, increased military spending while people are starving and homeless in this country, not reining in corporations as they use and abuse people. We don't have a true political left right now anywhere in Canada, says the respondent on X. I believe we do have a political left. I believe we are being governed by it. The Liberals and the NDP together very much represents a political left from where I'm sitting. But on the idea of these neoliberal policies, increased military spending while people are starving and homeless, look, again, food insecurity needs to be addressed. Homelessness needs to be addressed. I believe that military spending needs to increase, not only to maintain our commitment to NATO, commitments made decades ago, but if we are to be a global citizen in good standing, we should keep up with that military spending. And I think it's naive to think that we should not increase that spending as the world becomes an increasingly volatile place. This is just me sitting here in my home in Kitchener. But I think that the increasing volatility in the world is something we should be shoring up against. And quite frankly, when we consider our far north and the value seen in those territories, we best have our defenses in order. But reining in corporations as they use and abuse people, okay, I will concede that point as well. And I don't dismiss out of hand the idea of some sort of windfall tax on corporate profits, some way, somehow, adjusting so that maybe, and I know we want to keep it a business-friendly climate in this country, but at what point do we start saying enough is enough and there's too much in too few hands and not enough being redistributed to the masses? I'm open to that. It all comes down to me for how much are we taking in through taxes in this country? Is there room for changes to taxes, including maybe windfall taxes? How about repatriating those taxes that don't get paid and placed into offshore havens? We've talked about that a couple of times on the show. Are we actually going to put in the effort to repatriate those tax dollars? And how efficiently and effectively are we spending them? Because it feels to me like the little person, AKA what used to be, because I don't know if we have a middle class anymore. If we do, I'd like to meet it. But I feel like that's the person that keeps getting squeezed right now. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. Email from Yvonne to Mike at 570news.com. Every level of government is wasting our taxes. No reason to be hiring so much additional staff. That goes across the board, according to Yvonne. Let's go to the phones. Paul, good morning.
Morning. While you were talking, I came up with the perfect solution.
I'm here for it.
Military. We need to expand our military. We've got all these homeless people. How about this? A 1-year contract goes to a homeless person. They sign up 1 year. They join the military. They get housing. They get fed. They learn a trade.
That's assuming that. But even our military doesn't have housing, Paul. We've talked about that over the past year too. Situation is so inadequate that even members of our military can't get housing.
It was a good idea.
It was an idea. I'll give you that. It was an idea. And I'm here for ideas. Let's discuss them. Let's debate them. Let's right now get you to the 570 News Center because, oh boy, do we have developments in Cambridge. Shots reportedly fired into multiple homes in the city. You'll learn more about that as we continue our conversations here on the Mike Farwell Show this morning. This is 570 News Radio. Well, if you were with me at the beginning of the show today, I noted, not telling tales out of school at all, but today being the 18th of December means we are exactly 1 week from Christmas Day. Absolutely incredible. And so 'tis the season for Christmas concerts and a series of Advent concerts that have been going on around the region comes to St. Peter's Lutheran Church in Preston this Saturday, the 21st of December. These concerts are put on by John B. Miller and Friends, and I suspect our guest, Carrie Gousset, is one of those friends. Carrie, good morning.
Good morning. I am indeed one of the friends.
Love to hear that. How does one become a friend of John B. Miller anyway?
Well, it's a very special place to be, let me tell you. So I've known John for about 15 years through our work at the Henry Wessler Funeral Home. John is the resident musician there, and I'm kind of his backup there. So that's how we first met. And, it's a pleasure to be one of his friends and doing these concert series with him.
I have no doubt. And it's such a special time of year, and music fits the holiday season so well. What do these concerts sound like? What can we expect when we attend?
So it's a beautiful night of sort of reflective, meditative. We are ushering in the Advent, and so Advent is the waiting and the expectation of Christmas. So we kind of do this in a beautiful, soothing way. This year we did 5. We are doing 5 Advent concerts. We've had 3 already. We have one more tonight in Guelph at the Basilica. And then our final night is Saturday night at St. Peter's Lutheran in Cambridge.
Now, I don't mean to take away from St. Peter's at all, but boy, oh boy, the Basilica in Guelph. What a special venue.
Can we just talk about it for a minute?
Please, if you don't mind, yes.
It's so incredible to just perform there and just be in that space. It's a really, really beautiful place of worship.
As a singer-songwriter, Carrie, how did you first get into performing and music?
Oh, goodness. So I personally have been singing and performing since I was a little wee girl. And but it was church that got me into singing. And it's mostly church music that I've been involved in all my life. And so this is just a pleasure for me to go to churches that are kind of out of the realm of my faith journey. And it's been beautiful to see the insides of a lot of these churches and performing at and doing these concerts through the years. It's been really great.
And you mentioned earlier that this is really just, beautiful, almost meditative like music that we can enjoy, which is exactly, I think, the kind of tonic we need during the hustle and bustle of the holiday season.
Oh, isn't it so true? Isn't it so true? Yeah, so John is a beautiful pianist and vocalist. And so John is singing and playing. We have Andrea Weber-Steckley. She plays violin and sings. We have Joe Orlando that plays both the stand-up bass, like the double bass, and the electric bass. And we have Matt Teeter this year that has joined us, and he plays percussion and sings, and he plays an electronic wind instrument that sounds like an oboe, and it's gorgeous. And then I sing along as well. And so this 5-piece band, I guess you could call us, that we've put together, we just love singing these songs about Advent and ushering in this time of year.
How do you feel about using places of worship as a venue? How do they respond to the show?
Oh, so beautifully. And I think because it's songs of Advent, it's only fitting that we do it in places of worship. We are talking about Christmas and about Jesus. And so to do it at a place of worship is, to me, the perfect place to do it.
I know that tickets are not being sold in advance, Carrie. So do we just show up at St. Peter's on Saturday for that one? Yep.
Show up. That's right. Just show up. We ask for $20 at the door, but we would never turn anybody away. But that's what we're asking, because it does cost us to put things like this on and to travel around. So we are thankful for anything. Of course, if you wanted to give more than $20,
by all means.
We wouldn't turn you away at the door. But no, we're just grateful to be able to perform these songs for an audience of people that love to hear it.
And for our friends in Guelph, or anybody that wishes to make the short drive tonight at the Basilica, there's another opportunity. And then Saturday wraps up the series at St. Peter's Lutheran. Right. Okay.
That's right.
Carrie, love the work that you do. Thanks for making time for our show this morning. And the very best of the holidays to you and the entire team. Thank you so much, Mike. To you too. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Carrie Gousset joining us, one of John Miller's friends. John B. Miller and Friends, playing a series of 5 Advent concerts, the 4th of which is tonight in Guelph at the beautiful Basilica of Our Lady Church. I'm sure you know the one towering over the downtown. It's absolutely gorgeous. Not to take anything away from St. Peter's in Preston, which is where the 5th in the series of concerts will happen on Saturday, but as Carrie pointed out, what a beautiful, inspirational, uplifting way, almost meditative way to take a break from the hustle and bustle and enjoy some traditional, seasonal music. And in so doing, of course, you can make a donation to support their continuing work. The suggestion is $20. If you don't want to go 20, Nobody's going to turn you away at the door. If in the spirit of the season you want to support this group, part of our arts community, you can certainly do that as well. But we wanted to let you know that the opportunity exists, and the next such is tonight in Guelph at Basilica of Our Lady, and then Saturday at St. Peter's Lutheran in Preston. John B. Miller and friends wrapping up their series of Advent concerts this holiday season. All right, we're going to take a break. After that, I received this, I got a letter in the mail well before the postal strike. I admit I struggle. I do. Oftentimes I'll get messages through other platforms and I'm like, please email me, because my inbox / my calendar, my Outlook on my computer it runs my life. And it's the best way I can sort of keep up with things and try to stay on schedule. I do tend to get overwhelmed from time to time. Nonetheless, I bring that up because I also, on occasion, receive things in the mail, and I love it because it's way better getting stuff in the mail than than just bills. And I received this letter. I'd call it handwritten, but it's typed. So Barry has a computer, and he used it, but sent a really kind note about his enjoyment of the show and suggested that an organization that is in the midst of celebrating 50 years of service in and around the region should be highlighted. Barry thought this would be of interest to me and our community. And you know what, Barry? You're absolutely right. I know it's been a long time since you sent the letter and since I received it here at the radio station, but we do not want to miss the opportunity before our holiday break to celebrate half a century of service to our community. So you will meet the organization that has done just that coming right up here on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio. It took me a while, but eventually I got around to it. Good thing this organization has 50 years of tradition in our community. But I received some time ago, a couple months now, a letter in the mail actually delivered to me at the radio station, written by Barry Hessen, who said, I think you and the community would love to learn more about this organization and its 50 years of service to the community. And so we do that this morning as we are joined on the program by Amanda Stanzel, who's the volunteer coordinator at Pride Stables. Amanda, good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm excellent, thank you. How about you?
Wonderful. Thank you for asking.
I'm glad to hear that. So tell us more about what you do and have been doing for the past 50 years at Pride Stables.
Well, we provide therapeutic horseback riding for individuals with disabilities. And those disabilities range anywhere from ADHD to autism to physical disabilities. We have the whole gambit, and we provide services from 6 years old up to 106 if it fits. So it's not just for kids, it's for adults as well.
How did all this get started half a century ago?
It was actually interesting. I actually met the gentleman one day by a fluke. He happened to stop by and say, hey, do you have a minute to talk? Because I've only been with the organization for about 2 years now. And he started Pride Stables at his home, and it was for his sister-in-law who had a disability. And so she started riding horses, and then it just kind of moved out here, and it's just been going ever since.
Absolutely.
It's kind of amazing to talk to him.
It is. That's incredible. That really is. And what do we know, Amanda, about that connection between the animal and the person with the disability?
Animals, it's been shown that animals provide that therapy. It's comfort. Animals accept you no matter what. But what's neat about horses is when you're on it, you're using muscles you don't normally use, or especially if you have a physical disability, you may not get that stimulation if you're walking because you're in a wheelchair, whereas the horses kind of relax those muscles. The warmth helps stretch the muscles. You're using them. They're getting the therapy for muscles, and then also just somebody who's maybe nonverbal can communicate, and the horses pick up on those nonverbal signals. The volunteers interact with the riders. It's just amazing. I know I go down there when I'm like stressed out, and I'm like, I need to go see the horses. And off I go.
You know what? I can relate, not with the horses per se, but we have a family dog who we love dearly, and one of my favorite parts of the day is just before I leave for work, no matter how busy the day is going to be, spend just a couple of seconds with her, curled up on the couch, and it's like, okay, everything's fine now.
Yep, I do that with my dogs too.
So how have you been celebrating your 50th anniversary this year?
In September, we had our big 50th anniversary party. We just had our annual Christmas open house this past Saturday. We've been doing things leading up to the 50th through social media. I did our 50 Years Friday, where I posted pictures that people sent in, stories, memories from 50 years. I scoured through photo albums and found pictures from where, before even Deer Ridge was even built up, we were it.
Wow.
Then we did social media fundraisers, where each month was a different theme and, different amounts people could donate. We did silent auctions. We've kind of done a whole lot of things.
That's fantastic. And so, Amanda, for anyone listening who may know of someone, maybe someone in their family that could benefit from what you provide at Pride Stables, how can they go about becoming a part of it?
You can check out our website, but as far as riders, if you're interested in becoming a rider, we do have a medical form to fill out that has to be filled out by a doctor. Our programs do fill up fairly quickly, as does our summer camp. But you can email info@pridestables.com to get the necessary paperwork to fill out. That's also, and we're donor driven, so that's the other thing. If you're interested in donating as well, maybe you don't have a rider, but you want to get involved that way, info@pridestables.com. You can do an ear transfer. You can see our wish list and things like that.
You kind of read my mind, because I wondered, after all these decades, and you mentioned in that 50th anniversary celebration this year, the parts of that which were fundraising initiatives. So is it entirely funded by donations?
Pretty much,
yeah.
Yes. We do get grants and things, but yeah, we're very donor driven. We have a wonderful base of donors that sponsor stalls. We have 12 horses that are still in need of sponsorship. We have riders that sponsor through donors. We have just people that drop off, their donations of $10, $15, $50, whatever it is. The businesses really stepped up in the community and helped us through donations through both of our silent auctions. We've had many companies and organizations, a lot of Optimist clubs and Lions clubs and things that donate and sponsor horses and stalls and things.
I think it's amazing, and I'm so glad that Barry gave us the encouragement through his letter to reach out and learn a little bit more. Happy golden anniversary, and here's to another 50.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Amanda. Best of the season.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Amanda Stanzel is the volunteer coordinator at Pride Stables. Know someone who might benefit from that therapeutic pursuit? You can reach out via email, info@pridestables.com. But I would certainly encourage you to check out the website itself, pridestables.com, and maybe learn about a way that you could support the work that they've been doing for 50 years and will no doubt continue doing for 50 more. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio. We were talking earlier about municipal budgets, and I was trying to remember just off the top of my head when Regional Council would meet again to discuss its budget. And it is Friday. And here's something interesting coming forward, and dare I say coming forward from an interesting source. I wouldn't have thought that it would be Waterloo Mayor and Regional Councillor Dorothy McCabe bringing forward the motion, but indeed it is. And so this motion asks that the funding allocation for the museum in downtown Kitchener be phased out in 2025 and then fully removed from the regional budget in 2026. So According to the motion, the region of Waterloo has a long-standing policy which stipulates that organizations running deficits must provide a deficit reduction strategy in order to be eligible to continue to receive regional funding. The museum has run deficits and not provided that deficit reduction plan. So let's phase out the funding in 2025 and fully remove it from the regional budget in 2026, says the motion from Regional Councillor and Waterloo Mayor Dorothy McCabe. That will be discussed at the budget meeting on Friday morning. Interesting, and we'll keep our ears on it for sure. All right, our next guests, I'm just going to be honest with you. There are a couple of lying McLiartons. They sat in this studio with me about a month ago, maybe a little more, and they lied right to my face. So no, they're outside the studio window right now. Like, no, don't try to make excuses for yourselves, ladies, because you're liars. You lied right to me. Oh, they brought macarons. Okay, so in other words, okay, but there was a good reason. If there's ever a good reason to lie to my face, this was it. And now they're going to come and atone for their lying ways. It's such a great story, and I hope you'll enjoy it as much as I know I will. Stay with us on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio.
This is where today's topics turn into today's talking points. It's local and it's Democratic radio at its finest. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
Congratulations, Lenore and Jessica. You are the champions of Crime Scene Kitchen Season 3 and the winners of our $100,000 prize. Lenore and Jessica, how does it feel to win Season 3?
I'm just so grateful to Lenore for taking me on this journey, and I love you.
I love you more. This has been the adventure of a lifetime.
I'm just going to keep crying, and you guys just keep going.
I'm so proud of you.
I'm so proud of you. I love you.
What a fun adventure.
Oh my God. You're going to have to keep pinching me and be like, yes, it actually did happen. Yeah. It wasn't a dream. We actually did it. Nailed it.
The Mike Farwell Show continues
on 570 News Radio.
Nailed it. They did. Not bad for a couple lying McLiartons. That was very unkind of me before the news update.
No, you're okay. You can't say that word in Parliament, but it's fine. It's fine.
Lenore and Jessica, the winners of Crime Scene Kitchen Season 3 are Lenore Johnson, the owner of Lenjo Bakes on Aaron Street in Kitchener, and Jessica Harrison, the owner of the Cake Box on Victoria, right there at the corner of Victoria and Duke. Aaron's in Wellington for Lenjo, Victoria and Duke for the Cake Box. And together, the two of you combined to win the TV show. Now, before we get more into that, I called you liars unkindly, but we sat in this studio talking about your adventure on the TV show. Mm-hmm. And how much fun you were having. But at that time, a month, 6 weeks ago, you already knew that you had won, and you couldn't tell anybody.
Well, that's true. You know, there's something called an NDA that wields a lot of power, even when it's not in the room with you. But we also just really wanted everyone to be surprised. The more people you tell, the more possibility that it could leak out. And I only told my husband, and Jess, I think it was the same for you.
Mm-hmm. I told my husband and my parents. They knew.
Oh, your parents, lucky
so
them.
At least I had a couple of people that I could talk to about it. But we had been keeping this a secret for months. Mm-hmm. And we had a lot of, family and friends and customers that when they found out they were on the show coming in, be like, oh, come on, you can tell me. I won't tell anybody. I'm like, just because you said that, I know you're going to go tell somebody. So, yeah, and just for, protection of, our own personal, because of the NDA, and also because we wanted people to really enjoy the show and, cheer us on and be just as surprised as everybody else.
It was a lot of fun to be on this journey with you through our televisions, in our living rooms. We played at the beginning, Jessica, the clip of the announcement.
Yes.
How does it feel hearing that back? Like, what was that moment like?
That moment was so... I doubled over when he had said our names, because I went into that thinking it wasn't going to be us. And I just kept saying, it's not going to be us, and that's going to be okay. It's not going to be us, it's going to be okay.
And that's what I was chanting in my head. So when he said our names, the flood of emotions. And I was just saying to Lenore, like, every time I watch that, I've seen that clip now, but like 20 million times, I tear up every time because that was very real. It was hard work. And like, I was there with, like, honestly, my best friend, and just being able to do that with her, it was a lot of emotions. And seeing that on a trophy, just embodied in a trophy, was crazy. Yeah.
Where is the trophy now?
Right now, it's still in a bag.
Shouldn't you have it like right up in the front of the store?
Mine's on the kitchen table.
Okay.
So what had happened was the magnifying glass that's on the trophy is kind of heavy. So it broke.
It broke off both of ours. We each got a duplicate of the trophy so we could each have one. But both of our magnifying glasses broke off.
Yeah.
So we need to repair those. And then my husband is building a little shelf for me to put it up in the shop.
Send Mike my way, please.
Yeah, I will. When he's done at my shop, he'll come to yours and build a shelf for you too.
So, Lenore, the two of you were able to pull this off and win, despite on one of the final bakes. You made an executive decision for some dark chocolate in the bake, and dark chocolate was not supposed to be there.
So we knew that. We knew that there was no dark chocolate because there was no dark chocolate in the kitchen. There was dark chocolate on the counter or on the island where they were making the mirror glaze, and there was white chocolate, and there was white chocolate near the mixer where they made the ganache and where they made the mousse. And so we knew that, but white chocolate is so sweet. And they told us it's not only about getting all the clues right, it's also about execution. So in my mind, I thought if they're going to eat something that's sickly, they're not going to enjoy it. So why not give them something that they'll enjoy?
They didn't enjoy it. No.
They did not enjoy that.
They did not enjoy it.
And I just want to make it clear, we still used white chocolate in this tart. We used it to make that's what we used to make mirror glaze that was on top of the tart. So we didn't keep it out completely. It was more that we just added an extra ingredient that we just thought would enhance it because, like Lenore said, Curtis said to us, it's not just about, getting it right. It's about execution. And we thought maybe we had a little bit more freedom this time around, but nope.
We did not.
You did not.
Lesson learned.
And still champions of the crime scene kitchen. Yeah. So this makes me realize I should probably bring folks along with us here to understand what it was you were doing. You're given a set amount of time to go into a kitchen and determine from the clues that you find what was previously baked there, and then you essentially replicate it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So you walk in and there are lots of clues. Not all of them were used, though. So you also have to use deductive reasoning to say, what's a red herring? What actually wasn't a part of the bake at all? So it was tricky.
So how did the two of you go about that process?
So the two of us would walk into the kitchen and we would just divide the kitchen in half. I really focus on our side of the kitchen, what we're seeing, not jump to any conclusions because that's where you can get into trouble. If you're like, oh, it was definitely like a peach pie they made, then that's all you're going to be thinking about. So just taking in the clues, what we're seeing, and then when we come back together, we would bring out that book, we would make a full list of everything that we saw. And based off of that, then we would make a decision. So, and that really worked for us throughout the show. I mean, at times maybe not, but, just kind of bringing that together and working as a team instead of, me just following along Lenore, hoping I'll catch something that maybe she didn't. It was a great method for us.
Yeah.
One of the things that shone through during the show is the friendship that the two of you have, the love you really have for one another. But hang on a second. You're both running, aren't you supposed to be in baking wars here in downtown Kitchener? Lenjo Bakes versus the Cake Box? How did this all come together?
I mean, we do that in the underground battles of the baking world, which you're not allowed to talk about, despite club rules. No, but people love to say that. We're approached all the time. But aren't you
don't you compete?
Don't you compete?
No.
And I'm like, no, not at all. And it's so amazing having a friend that I can't just, connect with on like a personal and emotional level, but also in the business world where things that I'm dealing with every day, she's also dealing with, and she can really, empathize with me. Otherwise, people are like, oh, I'm sorry, that's hard. But Lenore's like, man, that's really hard. And you know that she really gets it. And that's what makes a difference. And that, I can go to her for things that I need help with and vice versa. When she was on her honeymoon, I was able to go into her shop and help her with things. And I know that when I'm away, I can call her up and she can help me with things. And that's the type of relationship that needs to happen, especially in this industry.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think that what we have is unique to us. I think that there are a lot of other businesses and business owners that I could call up and be like, I'm in a pickle, please help me. And they would say, yeah, okay, no problem, as opposed to being like, oh, sucks for you. And then releasing a post that's like, so-and-so might be out of this, but we have it, like we don't have to worry about that here in Kitchener, which is kind of nice. We're all just decent folk, apparently.
We are, and I love that, especially about the two of you. Lenore Johnson, Jessica Harrison with us in studio. They are the Crime Scene Kitchen Season 3 winners. Wait till you hear what a day in the life of a reality TV star is like. We'll get into that as we continue the conversation on the Mike Farwell Show this morning. Stay with us. This is 570 News Radio. In studio this morning with Jessica Harrison, who owns the Cake Box in downtown Kitchener, and Lenore Johnson, who owns Lenjo Bakes, also in downtown Kitchener. But together, they are the baking detectives who solved the Crime Scene Kitchen Season 3. Oh, yeah, and won $100,000. We'll talk about that. 100,000 American, too?
American
That's like $1 million
Exactly.
Canadian, right?
Exactly.
All right, Lenore, can you take us through an average day in the life of a reality TV star?
Are we talking about the beginning of the competition or towards the end of the competition?
You walk us through as much as you want.
Yeah, for sure. So at the beginning of the competition, you'll probably notice, at least with me, you have to do your own hair and your own makeup. I'm not a person that wears makeup on a regular basis, so I woke up extra early at like 4:30 to put on a whole face and false lashes and whatever. And by the end of the competition, we had to be downstairs by like 6:15. It was like 5:55. I'm like, I guess I'll get up and wash my face. And put on minimal makeup. And I'm like, I don't care if I'm shiny. I could not be bothered. It was just getting to the point where it was very stressful. You're working very long days. And in the beginning, because there are two sets of teams, family teams and friend teams, you're alternating. So 2 days on, 2 days off. And then weekends off as well. Down after the merge, there was no more alternating. You were working every day. I think we did 9 days in a row, which doesn't sound like a big deal, but when you're doing 16-hour days you're like so amped up on energy and your adrenaline is pumping all day long, like when you get to be off, you're like completely depleted. You don't want to talk to anybody. You don't want to look at anybody. You're hungry, but you don't care, so you just go to bed. So yeah, it could be really exhausting, but it's a lot of hurry up and wait in TV world. It's what we did all the time. They'd be like, come on. Hold here. Okay, let's go. Hold here. And it's like, okay, well, just bring us at the appropriate time. You don't have to rush us all the time.
But every time it's time to hurry up, you have to be on.
Yeah.
And I said this to you when we sat down, and I mean it sincerely. Like, the two of you made excellent TV. You really did. Your friendship shone through. Your energy was there. But that must be exhausting after 16 hours.
There were times, though, that I would genuinely forget that the cameras were there.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's when you could really kind of see Lenore and I's friendship, because we would just have fun together. We would be like, once we were in the kitchen and we were baking, we were like making snacks, and they were constantly telling us to stop singing because we were singing songs that, they like, we can't get the right singing songs, so stop singing them. And just, in those times, just remembering like who we are and why we're there, and just have a really good time with it. And there were times that I felt like a little bit of a celebrity, because there was somebody that would come around and like touch up your hair and touch up your makeup. And there was always somebody to be like, okay, we got, bakers coming through the hallway. So, on their little radios, and you're like, oh yeah, look out for me, I'm coming through, So there were definitely like moments that made me feel like special, and yeah, it was definitely like a completely different world than what we're used to.
For sure.
Lenore, you mentioned, though, those days off, alternating days early on, but that's days off from being on set. You were essentially, the two of you, sequestered from your family at a hotel in Toronto for like 40 days?
Yeah.
And you couldn't tell anybody anything?
No, I couldn't tell anybody anything, but the beauty is I used to live in Toronto, so I had a lot of friends.
Okay.
They'd be like, hey, are you around? And they're like, yeah, why are you around? I'm like, yeah, do you want to go out for coffee or something? And they're like, yes, why are you here? I'm like, I'm only here for a little while. I just thought I'd pop in and say hello. Which is so random because I never pop in and say hello. I'm always working. But It was really nice to get to do that, although we had to tell them when we were leaving and when we were coming home and things like that. But other than that, it was kind of nice to be away with very few responsibilities.
That's true. There are advantages to that. Okay, so you've won $100,000 US as a prize for being the winners of Crime Scene Kitchen Season 3. Jessica, what are you
Yes.
doing with it?
So on the show, I did mention that my husband and I were going to be trying to go on a honeymoon that we never had.
Because you were working.
Because
you're
I was
cake
working
boxing.
and couldn't afford it and things like that. And Michael had injured himself at our wedding, at the end of our wedding. So we weren't able to go on our honeymoon. He broke his arm. Dislocated his shoulder pretty severely. So, as we were leaving our wedding. So we didn't go on our honeymoon. So just getting pushed and pushed and pushed. And then financially we couldn't afford it. And then my business. And then we had a son and things like that. So things kept happening. So I'm like, now we're going to have all this money. Let's go somewhere. And now that money is actually coming, we're like, maybe we should be adults. And our home hasn't been renovated since 1972. And instead using that money to invest in our home and make it somewhere really beautiful. So that's what we're going to be using the money for.
Excellent. Adulting kind of sucks, but that's not a bad idea. What about you, Lenore?
I'm not going to be an adult at all. I'm kidding. I really want to send my parents on vacation. They work for me for free all the time. If you ever see them at the shop, they're working for zero monies and all the heartache that comes with having their daughter as a boss. So I'd love to send them on vacation. And then other than that, I think James and I are going to try to secure some property, whether here or abroad. But I will also do something very fun with the money. I haven't decided how much, but something just for me that's frivolous and nonsense.
As you should.
And I'm going to love it.
As you should. Does anything change at Lenjo Bakes or the Cake Box now that you are reality TV champions? I want to emphasize that. You're champs.
That's very kind.
Liars and champs.
Not for me. I don't know. I don't feel like anything has changed for me. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like it? Nothing's really changed. Just on like a personal and emotional level, just having our customers come into the shop and celebrate with us and be like, is Jessica here? I just want to say, congrats to her, and you guys did so great. And being able to connect with our customers too on that, knowing that they're cheering for me and all that kind of thing, and also having the opportunity to share with our city, what we've accomplished and what we've done, and hoping we made our city proud. Like that's the best outcome, I think, for this, for sure. Absolutely.
You absolutely made the city proud. That watch party was incredible. So much fun. So many people.
Yeah.
And we got to celebrate with you, which was great. I'll forgive you for the big fat lie.
Thank
Like
you.
you sat right here and just lied to my face.
To be fair, it was a lie of omission.
That's fair. That is absolutely fair. Lenora Johnson, owner at Lenjo Bakes. Jessica Harrison, the owner at the Cake Box. Congratulations. Thanks for doing our city so proud, and thanks for being here this morning.
Thanks for having us.
This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. Come on, how much fun was that? With Jessica Harrison, owner of the Cake Box, Victoria Street at Duke in Kitchener, and Lenora Johnson, owner at Lenjo Bakes, Aaron's at Wellington in Kitchener. Together, they solved the Crime Scene Kitchen Season 3 champions. Couple of bakers from Kitchener representing the city oh so well. I introduced them as liars, such good sports, and Lenore still left her macarons behind. My favorite thing from Lenjo. And when there's something to celebrate in the family, it's the Cake Box. Has been for years, and it continues to be. They do great work, and they really are just a terrific duo. And it was so much fun watching them work their way through Season 3 of that show and ultimately be crowned the champions. Loved having them in studio to share that here this morning. All right, I have to get you to the 570 News Center for an update. And then last year, they missed out on Shohei, so there was no show. This year, they missed out on Juan Soto, so there's no so. What about those Blue Jays anyway? How's that offseason going? We'll talk to our Blue Jay hunter coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio. Well, something we do on Wednesday mornings at this time during the baseball season is chat with our good friend and colleague right here at 570 News Radio, Ian Hunter. He is the Blue Jay Hunter. And we do that while the season is on so we can keep up with what the Blue Jays are doing. And all is well. And Devin, we got Ian on a different mic here. Just make sure you got the right one. I'm just looking at the red lights. So what number is that? 5, 3, 4. See, 1, 2. Okay, that's the 4. It's the mic number 4 that Ian's sitting on. Anyway, even though it's not Blue Jays season, it's Blue Jays off season. And there was another big fish in the free agent pond that the Blue Jays failed to land. I'm going on and on. Ian is sitting right across from me. Thanks for coming in, bud.
My pleasure. Happy to talk baseball on December 18th. It's exactly what everyone loves to talk about, baseball this time of year, right?
Well, listen, there's good reason for it. I mentioned this morning when I shot my morning video for the show because I did it about 7:15. It was still dark outside. And as of Sunday, we will be on the other side of that. However, incrementally, the days will get a little bit more daylight.
We're getting there, yeah.
Right, which also means, this is my connection, pitchers and catchers have got to be reporting in less than 60 days.
Yeah, it's usually around Valentine's Day. So yeah, a couple months from now. We're getting there.
We're getting there, yeah. Absolutely. So these are reasons for optimism. However, as optimistic, I wasn't even thinking that the Jays would land Juan Soto, quite frankly. It was never, it's nice to think about maybe. I didn't even think about it after what happened last year. Were you convinced in any way, Ian, that the Jays were actually in on those sweepstakes?
If you're a Jays fan, you're hopeful that they're there, but we've seen this. We saw this movie before last year with Juan Soto where it was, he was on the plane. He was coming to Toronto. It seemed inevitable that he was going to sign and it didn't happen. So I think that spurred a lot of people to kind of say, wait, let's wait until this thing is official. And there were reports that the Jays had a table at the negotiations. They were involved at least this time, but it was an astronomical amount. I think $785 million, which eclipsed Shohei Ohtani's total last year. Were the Blue Jays in at $500 million? Were they at 600? Was it 7? If you don't land the player, maybe it doesn't matter. But yeah, I kind of thought when free agency happens, it's always one of two things. If it's like either, oh yes, we signed this guy, or oh, thank God we didn't sign this guy, because it is a ton of money to plunk onto one guy, one of the best players in all of baseball, and he's only 26 years old, but you can do a lot with $785 million. So yeah, the Blue Jays actually have a lot bigger holes and more problems to fill rather than just signing one guy on the dotted line.
Okay. And I want to talk about those holes to fill and how you see this roster being reshaped over this offseason. But two things still connected to Soto. One is you're talking about all the money and one of the best players in baseball. I would submit to you, especially after a slow-ish start last season, he once again showed himself to be very much that, one of the best players in baseball. I am, of course, talking about Vladimir Guerrero Jr., and he's coming into his contract here.
Yep.
I think there should be some urgency to get this man's name on a massive contract.
Yeah. How many times did we say the first thing the Blue Jays need to do this offseason is re-sign Vladdy? That should have been priority one before anything happened. And now that the fact that Juan Soto signed for that contract, that just bumps his asking price up that much more. I think if you're Vladdy, even if you have a half-decent season, you don't need to have the same season that you had this past year. I think he's still going to make a ton of money, and there's almost very little incentive for him to not test free agency. Unless there's somehow a deal gets worked out before arbitration in February, I believe it happens just before spring training. Unless that happens, I think Vlad probably goes to free agency. That doesn't mean he walks, but I just think when you see $785 million, it just makes it so much more enticing for a free agent like that. So it's going to be a big year, and the Blue Jays also have Bo Bichette, who's going to be a free agent potentially next year too. He's not going to get nearly as much on the free agent market, but yeah, it's all of a sudden the conversation was already complicated when it came to Vlad, and now it ramp things up even more. So I'm sure we'll be talking about that a lot next season.
Okay. Still connected to Soto. Last year, it was the Shohei watch, and is he on that plane, et cetera, et cetera. But the Jays clearly seemed laser focused on adding Shohei Ohtani. Mm-hmm. This year, as you've pointed out, they at least had a table at the negotiations for Juan Soto. They have failed to land either player. But does this suggest to you in any way, Ian, that maybe Messieurs Shapiro and Atkins really have no idea what to do with this roster? I mean, that's a lot of eggs to put in one basket, and they've tried to do it in 2 consecutive off seasons.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these contending teams, really what they have to do is kind of make a business case for a player like a Shohei and Juan Soto. And it's not just, they're going to put butts in the seats. I think they're going to attract a ton of viewers. They're going to sell a lot of jerseys and a lot of tickets. So you can make the case for guys like that. I think where we might get carried away, it's like, okay, well, if they were going to spend $700 on Shohei, why not just take $700 million and spread that and buy a new third baseman, a starting pitcher, 2 relievers, a backup catcher? It doesn't work that way. It's not apples to apples, I don't think. So I think the problem this offseason is it's not just one player that's going to push the Blue Jays over the top. Sure, it would have been great if they signed Juan Soto, but they still need to find a back end of the rotation starter. They have to get 2 or 3 relievers. They probably can upgrade at third base. A left fielder would be nice as well. So, like, there's so many holes on the rosters. You can't just plug it with one guy. And unfortunately, Juan Soto is not going to play 9 positions on the diamond.
All right. So to date this offseason, Jimmy Garcia returns. It appears as though the Jays are starting from the bullpen out.
Yeah, so the only transactions they've made so far is the Jimmy Garcia 2-year, $15 million deal, and they also traded for Andres Jimenez from the Cleveland Guardians. They shipped out Spencer Horwitz in that trade. Those are the only 2 deals that have happened so far. I know we've heard the Blue Jays linked to starting pitchers like Corbin Burns and Max Fried, and they were rumored to be in talks for Cody Bellinger as well, but ultimately those are the only 2 deals that they've done so far. And yeah, it's been underwhelming because you look across to the Yankees, who they signed Max Fried, they traded for Devin Williams, they got Cody Bellinger yesterday. You look at the New York Mets, who signed Juan Soto, and they got Clay Holmes as well. A lot of these perennial contenders are loading up, and the Blue Jays have kind of just colored around the edges. They haven't really filled in the big needs that are on the roster. Like, yes, they needed a second baseman, but they had second baseman already. So, yeah, it's still early in the offseason. There's still a lot of guys left on the board, but I think if you're a Jays fan, you're kind of nervous that there has been this much inactivity to date because, like I said, they still have a ton of holes to fill, and spring training is only a few months away. There's not that much time left.
And you said on a number of occasions during our conversations last year on Blue Jays Talk every Wednesday morning at this time during the season that it's not the kind of roster that you can just run it back and expect a different result.
No. I mean, sure, maybe you get the mid-May version onwards of Vlad for the entire season, and you're probably going to get at least something from Bo Bichette, right? I don't know if it's the 2 years ago version of Bo Bichette, but you'll probably be for the most part healthy this season. Yeah, it's just I look at what they've done so far, and I would never say this team is going to compete for a division title. As of now, I like to be frank. They might back into a playoff spot if everything goes right. But as we saw this past season, if you kind of hope that everything goes right, that hope dissipates extremely quickly. So I could see a scenario next year where the Blue Jays kind of end up in the basement of the division. I could also see a scenario where they win 88 games. There's so much variance on this roster right now, and I just think adding more talented players just helps push it over the top a little bit more.
In studio with Ian Hunter. He is the Blue Jay Hunter, taking a look at the Blue Jays offseason to date. I don't know the last time there's ever been so much attention paid to a haircut. I want to get Ian's thoughts on that. And if you haven't heard of the Golden at Bat, I really want to hear what Ian thinks about that, too. We'll continue the conversation here on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. Ian Hunter is the Blue Jay Hunter, also a colleague of ours right here at 570 News Radio. Third base, Ian, you have written about the best internal candidates for the hot corner in 2025. Who are you seeing?
Yeah, it's really, there's not a ton of options on the free agent market other than Alex Bregman, who's like the big marquee guy. And I think the Blue Jays have been kind of softly linked to him, so I don't really foresee that happening. I think they probably go internally. And this past season, Ernie Clement, who has kind of been a bit of a career journeyman, kind of took the ball and ran with it in the second half of this past season. So he's kind of the favorite to be the starting third baseman, which I think he's fine. He's more of a defensive-minded fielder. Like, he can hit for average, sort of. Not a ton of power there, but yeah, he's got a really good glove. So I think if he's your everyday third baseman, I think the Blue Jays are okay with that. And then you have Addison Barger, who had some playing time at the end of last year as well. He's a prospect who has a heck of an arm and has some power, but just really kind of spun his wheels this past year. Didn't really get a find his footing, but I think if he has a lot of playing time, he could probably be the Blue Jays' everyday third baseman. And then Aurelvis Martinez, who was suspended for performance-enhancing drugs last year, up until then had some really great power numbers in the minor leagues these last few years. But yeah, maybe he has a potential to kind of stick and stay with the Blue Jays at third base. So, you know, it's not their sexiest position on the diamond. I don't think they're not going to have a ton of power there, but I think that's a position where it's really important to play capably defensively, and the Blue Jays certainly have a lot of guys who could do that for them.
Power is something that, from my perspective, I still think this team needs. They've got to have another bat in this lineup to protect Vladdy. Yeah, I totally agree. I think Andres Jimenez is not the answer. He is it's an upgrade defensively, but not offensively. So my kind of thinking was bringing back Teoscar Hernandez. That guy makes a ton of sense for the Blue Jays. Would be a middle-of-the-order bat, protection for Vlad. Could fill in left field or right field for the Blue Jays. And yeah, he strikes out a ton, but he's going to hit you a lot of home runs. He had career-high home runs and won a World Series with the Los Angeles Dodgers this year. So, and apparently the latest I saw was he's asking for a 3-year deal around $22-ish million a season, which, you know, compared to Juan Soto, that's pennies, right? So Blue Jays should have no problem paying that. It's funny when we talk about Jimenez and the acquisition there. I think that because you said upgrade defensively, but he's not the answer in terms of the bat. Yeah, the Jays must be counting on the Jimenez of 2 years ago when his numbers were MVP-esque. Yeah, absolutely. He had a breakout year 2 years ago. Almost hit 300 with 17 home runs. It's interesting. He's a really interesting player because he's under team control now for 5 more seasons. So, you know, the thing is he's got some shortstop experience. So if the Blue Jays decide this offseason, hey, maybe we're going to trade Bo Bichette, they could slide Jimenez over to shortstop. And if Bo walks as a free agent at the end of next year, Jimenez could also slide in and probably play capably defensively at shortstop. I don't know if that player of 2022 is ever going to come back again, but if you just get like league average offense, I feel like that's okay. Really, his glove is where he's a big contributor. All right. Speaking of Bo Bichette, if you believe the legend of Samson, it was his long hair that gave him his strength. Bo's mane has been chopped to something far more presentable for an adult his age, says the old guy over here with no hair. Yes. What do you make of the trimmed locks? It was jarring when I saw it because, he's got the signature
the long flow. And a lot of Blue Jays fans were quick to note that the second that Vlad cut off his hair last year and onwards, he had an amazing season. So baseball players are creatures of habit. I'm sure you know about, like, hockey players are the same way, right? Like, they'll do certain things. If they're in a funk, they'll grow a mustache or they'll grow a beard or they'll cut their hair or they'll change or whatever. So I don't know if that was the case here, but I think any change is a good change.
I could not agree more, and I hope, even if it psychologically gives him the advantage that he needs to find his former self, that's great. I was oblivious until very recently to this idea of the golden at-bat. And I got to say, I mean, I'm a lot of a purist. I'm a lot old-fashioned, but I don't think I hate it. The golden at-bat would be game on the line. You as a manager can put whatever player you want up to the plate to take the big at-bat.
Yeah.
What do you think of this?
I saw this, and, you know, I'm a little bit old school. I'm a little bit new school, and I just kind of thought this was really weird. So you can just pull up any player you want and plug them in at any point in the game if the game is on the line. I see where Major League Baseball is going, because in the other sports, you know, in basketball, you can hand the ball to your star and run out the clock. Same thing in football, you give the ball to your quarterback, your marquee player. And in baseball, you know, it's not always best on best. But that's kind of what I like about it, is because it's so random. And maybe it's the number 9 hitter who comes up and hits a walk-off home run instead of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So, yeah, I know what Major League Baseball is doing here. They're trying to appeal to a younger fan base and get more eyeballs on the game. But yeah, my first initial thought was, yeah, this is weird. It's not going to work. But in 5 years, if it comes out, I wouldn't be shocked. But if I had a vote, I would say no to it.
That was my first reaction too. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like, you don't mess with this. But I think you just nailed it when you talked about appealing to that younger demographic, right? They want to see best on best. They didn't pay all that money to go see that game to look at Vladdy sitting on the bench with the game on the line in the bottom of the ninth.
Yeah, but baseball's so traditional. It's 9 versus 9 plus the pitchers. Like, it isn't best on best. And I think if we try to change it, it gets away from the roots of what baseball is fundamentally. So yeah, that's old man yelling at a cloud. I don't know, but I don't like it, Mike. I don't.
That's okay. Old man yelling at cloud is perfectly acceptable in this studio. Okay. Trust me.
Fair enough.
Thanks for coming in during the off season, buddy.
You're very welcome.
Have a very happy holiday, and we look forward to resuming Blue Jay Hunter every Wednesday morning when the season starts again.
Sounds good. Thanks, Mike.
Ian Hunter, the Blue Jay Hunter, joins us during the season, and heck, we wanted to take a look at the off season since the Blue Jays missed out on Juan Soto. So Ian Hunter joins us in studio on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. We have reached that time of the show, headed into our final hour, and you know what that means, right? Open lines so we can hear from you during the 12 o'clock Talkback Hour. I have a request to make of you today. I'm sorry to impose, but please, do me a favor. In the spirit of the holidays, okay? Don't leave me with Grant and Andre. I mean, come on. I love Grant and Andre. They were the first two. They know the rules around here. They know how this works. They are already queued up for the 12 o'clock Talkback Hour. But we have more than 2 lines. So if you would like to be a part of the Talkback Hour, I encourage you to use one of our 3 available lines. I know you know the numbers. If you can't get through on one line, just try another. That's a little insider tip so that the phone will ring and we can get you on for the conversation in the next hour. It has not yet happened, the Prime Minister resigning. Also, what didn't happen today that I'm still a little chafed about is our conversation with Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. Pulled the plug about 30 minutes before showtime today. No idea why. No explanation provided. We had the interview confirmed last night, and as of about 8:20 this morning, gone. Just like that. Why would the federal Conservative leader do that to us? Why would he do it to you? Maybe we can talk about that too. 12 o'clock Talkback Hour coming up on the Mike Farwell Show. 570 News Radio.
Take out the papers and the trash.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage out of sight. Or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
It is our Talkback Hour. We do it every day from noon until 1, allowing you to have your say. Maybe it's on a story that we've already discussed on the show today and you want to share some reflections on that, or maybe it's something that is just happening to you, near you, in your neighborhood. We want to hear about that too, because if it's important to you, it's important to us here on the program. Let's begin our 12 o'clock Talkback Hour today with Grant. Good afternoon, Grant. Always with that laugh. Makes me so nervous.
I like that.
You like that I get nervous. I know you do.
Yeah. I'm going to touch on 4 things, and they'll be very quick so you can get to Mr. Andre.
All right. You asked for him the other day. You said, where's Andre? So he's coming up next. All right, Grant. Thing number 1.
Sullivan's Crossings, amazing drama show, new show, and St. Medical Dentist. It's a comedy show. It's similar to Scrubs, and it's hilarious.
Grant.
Yes.
Are you calling my radio show to tell me what to watch on TV?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. I'm just checking. I'm just making sure.
And
you know, when I was a kid, Grant, we used to gather around the old radio box and listen to those radio programs, don't you know?
Like the Rangers tonight.
The Rangers tonight, baby. I got you covered.
And you're still here.
I know.
I thought maybe you would have told your boss, I need to have it off because I got to go.
Trust me, Grant. I tell my boss lots of things. Lots of things. But no, I am going to catch the bus later. I'm going to finish the show because I wanted to hear from you today.
I was duped today, and I think other people need to know when they live in an apartment building to make darn sure that they're not being duped. Because this person again said, there's chocolates here. I got chocolates. Okay. He didn't have my apartment number yesterday, and he did it at 11 o'clock today. I'm waiting, and I'm waiting.
You got more chocolates today? You got chocolates yesterday.
No, they said they had chocolates, but it was someone trying to get into the building.
Gotcha.
And
did you eat all the chocolates you got yesterday?
There was no chocolates at all.
No, yesterday, though. Did you eat all of those yet?
No, there was none delivered. It was just someone posing as somebody else.
I thought you said you got chocolates delivered yesterday.
I know they've called, and they said, I've got chocolates.
But you just haven't received them.
They're no. It's nothing, right? It was someone just trying to get into our
I got you.
Complex.
I got you. Okay. I feel like I'm more confused. I could have sworn Grant told us yesterday he had chocolates actually delivered because I asked him if he was going to share them with me. And now he said there are no chocolates, but somebody else is trying to get into the building. Bottom line is, if you live in an apartment building, make sure you know who you're buzzing in. Andre, Grant has been waiting all week for this call.
Oh, very, very honored. Thank you very much.
I just said Grant was. I didn't say me.
Yes. Stop it.
Andre, I'm just giving you a hard time. We tease the ones we love.
Not today.
Okay.
Not today.
Not today?
It's game day. I just want to say that 2 things. For one, Chef D, didn't he make something, a dessert last time, something mousse chocolate?
Yes.
Yeah. So I would like to see him do that again with the 2 girls that won the inspector show.
Oh, with the crime scene kitchen bakers.
Local.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chef D, Lenore Johnson, Jessica Harrison. Boy, that'd be one hell of a chocolate mousse.
Right?
Yes.
And then we get the recipe.
Okay.
Okay. My second thing is, Mike, I don't know much, but you are my eyes, and with Paul, of course. But the thing is that I just ain't bought no his name's popular, but I never really like him for two reasons.
Wow, we're gonna go like pound on the guy that dearly departed. Sorry you got traded. I never really liked you anyway.
Yeah, no, okay, that's your words, but my words is he hit too many posts, and when the net's open, he misses it. So hopefully it continues that way.
Okay. All right, Andre. Yes, you want him to continue that when he's with the Guelph Storm, which is where Justin Bottineau now is. Traded by the Kitchener Rangers yesterday for a 5th-round draft pick. I'm not a fan of picking on the dearly departed. I appreciate everything that Justin Bottineau did while a member of the Kitchener Rangers, even if he did hit the post on occasion. Kyle, you're next on the Talkback Hour. Good afternoon.
Are we racing to down the 401 tonight? I got to go to LaSalle.
Oh, I'll race you, pal. I will race you something fierce.
You'll win because I got a couple of stops on the way to make some deliveries. But anyways,
okay.
I was going to ask you, what's going on with baseball? Why is it okay to just have these $750, $800 million contracts? Like, I think this is going to kill the sport. You can't how does the Jays even compete with that? Like, I don't get it there, Mike. Like, can you explain to me? Like, help me out here. Like, how is it okay to have these $758 million, $800 million contracts to play baseball? Like, there should be I understand there's a cap. They should have a cap, and there's a strike and all that stuff. But this is going to kill the sport, no?
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from. For smaller markets that can't compete, sure. Rogers has got lots of money. I think they do anyway. But of course, we're a little bit busy trying to buy the Maple Leafs, so there's that.
Do you think they have enough money to compete against like the Yankees and the Braves and those guys? Like, do you really think so?
I don't know if they have the willingness to do so.
Okay, I just thought
but it's certainly, and that's, we're talking Toronto now. I have no idea how the Oaklands and the I'm trying to think of some of the smaller markets in the league work though, right? So I don't know, but I don't think you're wrong. You're right. Like, with the contracts that big for smaller market teams, it's going to be really tough to keep up.
I just have enough money to have the Jays, and they also have enough money to compete against the streaming services for hockey too, you know? So anyways, thanks, Mike.
All right, Kyle. Appreciate it. The other thing I'll say, though, like, I used to get really frustrated by this, and I couldn't figure out how any player to play a game is worth more than $1 million a year. Like, that's it's so much money. It's so okay with just inflation, $2.5 million a year, but still, you know where I'm coming from on this. And I've reached a point in my life where I just look at the economics of it all, and I say, listen, it is a business owner making the decision that they can afford to pay player X that much money because they will generate that much more in ticket sales, that much more in merchandising sales, etc. And it all becomes worth it as long as we're willing to keep buying those tickets. And once that balance tips, then we might see a change. But so far, that balance does not seem to have tipped away from the owners making backhoes and backhoes of money. This is the Mike Farwell Show. It's your 12 o'clock Talkback Hour, 570 News Radio. Now I really want to know if Grant got chocolates. I'm so confused. Yesterday, I swear he said he got chocolate. Today, he said it was a scam. I did not take the chocolate. But if there's chocolate sitting in Grant's apartment lobby, I might go pick it up later on. This is your 12 o'clock Talkback Hour, where we either create and or solve mysteries. Let's get back to the phones. Mark, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. Mike, I'm going away for the weekend tomorrow morning. So I am calling to wish you and your family a Merry Christmas.
Bah humbug.
And a Happy New Year, buddy.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. Merry Christmas to you, too. Where are you going?
I'm going to Simcoe, my son and family.
Fantastic.
So just because I know you're off Friday, and I know you're off for a couple of weeks. Is that correct?
Wow. You know a lot about me, Mark. Have I been this forthcoming with my plans for the holidays?
Yes, you have.
Well, you're such a loyal and attentive listener. Yes, I am off Friday, And I will be back then on January the 6th. I will be around for the Kitchener Rangers games, but that's it.
Okay. Enjoy your time off, Mike. And
thanks, buddy.
We'll talk to you in 2025.
I look forward to it. Thanks, Mark.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Simcoe. Did I ever tell you about the time I applied for a job in Simcoe? They were just flipping. Or no, did they flip? I think they flipped. AM to FM, or were they launching a new FM station? No, that was a flip from AM to FM. Anyway, I was working at the time out in Salmon Arm, British Columbia, and I wanted to get closer to home. And I saw this advertisement. I thought, this is the greatest thing ever. Of course I can get a job in Simcoe. And so I came home on a vacation from my job in British Columbia, and I arranged for an interview at the station in Simcoe, and I didn't get the job. Guess I couldn't work in Simcoe, could I? You lucky so-and-so. Now you're stuck with me here in Kitchener. I bet you wish I got the job in Simcoe, huh? Huh? Well, I didn't. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Francis, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I want to also wish you a Merry Christmas.
Well, I want to wish you one too, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to thank all the different radio stations that we can finally have Christmas music on and able to say Merry Christmas on the 25th. Not Happy Holidays like I was working at the city, and they would not allow me to put a sign up Merry Christmas. It had to be Happy Holidays.
Come on, really?
And I refused to do it, so they got somebody else to put it up Happy Holidays. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Attaboy, Francis. Good job.
God bless.
And to you, sir. And to you. I love that. It's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I don't know why I finished my Simcoe story that way, but it's a true story. Couldn't get a job in Simcoe. Eventually ended up here. Not directly, though. Oh, boy, I took a roundabout path to getting here. From Thunder Bay, here for a minute, then Toronto, then back here. Anyway, glad to be here. It's my hometown, don't you know? I love Rob's email to Mike at 570news.com. It's under the subject line, Brilliant Idea. You let Grant, Andre, and Liberal Bob host their own show. They will cover one topic about every 6 hours. Lots of talking about shows they watched and then forgetting the reason they started talking. Rob, I appreciate the email to Mike at 570news.com. Whether your thoughts are eloquently stated or otherwise, we love to hear them during the 12 o'clock Talkback Hour. That's what this is all about. So if it's your idea, express it. If it's something that's important to you, we want to hear about it. We make space on the show just for that. And listen, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, whatever. I mean, does it really matter? No, of course it doesn't. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. Russell just nails it with this email to Mike at 570news.com. Under the subject line, Happy Holidays. People are always complaining about others telling them they have to say Happy Holidays. People can say whatever they want, no matter what it is. It's what makes it so great living in a democracy. Happy Holidays is usually the one preferred by atheists like me. Up until that last part, though, I'm with you, Russell. And on that last point, I know I'm running a little bit of a risk here, but I'm going to say it because this has occurred to me over the last couple of winters, and I said it out loud to my beloved last night, and ding dang it, I'm going to say it out loud to you this afternoon. I'm a good cat. No, I'm not a good Catholic boy. I'm a good boy who's a mediocre. I'm a mediocre boy who's a mediocre Catholic. I was raised, though, in the Catholic Church, and I have come to the conclusion in my adult years that they are not Christmas lights. They're just lights that we put up in the wintertime to brighten the dark. Like, 'cause it's so dark, right? It gets so dark so early and so bright so late, and we keep these lights on. No disrespect to the birthday being celebrated on the 25th, but they're lights that are bright and colorful because otherwise the winter would be worse. Winter's already bad enough. We need the lights. They're just lights. That's my controversial hot take for the day. Let's get back to the phones here. 12 o'clock Talkback Hour continues. Dave, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. I have two suggestions for 2 separate segments in your show in January.
Okay.
First is on, you do that council speaks or whatever it's called.
Council chambers, Friday morning. Yep.
Yeah. So how about for one segment, you do a recap of the past year on how many councillors, how many mayors, how many whatever representing which city in the region that you've had on your show. Just a little summary of the success of the show. That's one.
Well, I'm just trying to think. Like, there's been one a week for 52 weeks. Is that what you mean? Like, I'm not sure I'm following.
Well, like how many? Okay, we have 7 mayors, something like that.
Oh, 7 mayors, a regional chair, yes, and then 52 other councillors. So how many different ones have we had on?
Yes.
Okay. I should total that up for you. Probably about 25. Nah, maybe 20. Anyway, okay.
Especially how many different mayors you've had on the show.
All of them. We've had every mayor on, I'm sure of that.
Okay.
Yep.
And the second suggestion is your pet peeve, not a pet peeve, but a question of idiots who drive in Kitchener, Waterloo.
I question every idiot, Dave.
Okay.
Okay.
Who have a collision with the ion.
The train's on a track, Dave. The train is making very predictable movement.
Exactly.
Yes.
So how about a segment and that you do a recap or a summary of the past year since the ion came into existence.
Dave, how much time you got? You know how long this segment's going to be? You want to know how many crashes with the train?
I would say approximately a dozen.
Yeah, that's a dozen too many.
Right.
Right.
How about a segment of a summary of how many people hit the train?
I gotcha. Okay.
How many live in the region? How many were actually charged? And what was the most common charge?
All right, Dave, I got to get to news, but I get where you're coming from. I'm going to fix this problem for you. Stop driving like a jackwagon. See? Problem solved. Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. If you would like to be a part of the fun and frivolity, just make a phone call. A lot of alliteration in there, a lot of alliteration. 519-570-2545. Star 570, 1-800-570-5715. Nathan sends an email to Mike at 570news.com. I agree with Dave. The ion stuff is just madness. They should have elevated the tracks like they do in a lot of cities. Get traffic and pedestrians out of the way of the trains, just like our roundabouts, though all planned wrong. I hear you. I get it. Although I will just say again, the trains are on a fixed track. We know exactly where they are going. They don't make unpredictable moves. Having said that, I will also repeat something I've said many times since my last venture into downtown Kitchener in a vehicle. It's tough. You really have to be on your toes when you're navigating the streets, the one-ways, the bike lanes, the no-turns, all of the stuff, plus the tracks. It is a lot. So you got to be on your very best driving behavior. But there's still no excuse for running into a train. There's just not. I'm sorry. The train's on a track. Just stay off the tracks. You see? That's how it works. All right, back to the phones. Ernie, you're on the 12 o'clock Talkback Hour.
Mike, how did you scare my buddy Pierre off?
I don't know. I was looking forward to. I was so excited. My daughter, who lives in Ottawa now, she's going to school up there, and she gets very excited when she even asks for previous interviews with Pierre Poilievre. And I was excited to tell her I was going to have him on again today, and then he just bailed on me.
I'm blaming you. I think you did something.
I didn't do nothing, man. I didn't do nothing.
My buddy Pierre is perfect. So,
I wish he would have told you that. I would have given him the chance.
But, aside from that, just because the show is going all over the place today, I just watched an interview with Brian McCabe, and he talked about when the lockout happened, the Leafs team was stacked, and he said it was the best team I'd ever been a part of. And Brian Leach, remember, he just was there late, but he didn't get a chance to really get into the, because I think it was a trade deadline deal. But he's saying, like, they lost to Jeremy Roenick in a shot, as much as that hurts us. But he's saying what could have been if that lockout didn't happen. And then the Leafs went on there like 13 years, no playoffs.
No, I'm not going down that path.
No, but think about that.
I can't stop. Listen, Ernie, I'm still stuck in 1993 with the Maple Leafs.
I know. Yeah, Gretzky. You know,
high stick, cheater. Yeah.
Of course. Other note, I'm taking a page out of Grant's book. I'm going to tell you a show to watch because that's what we're doing today.
Okay.
HBO is doing an AFC Hard Knocks on the AFC North.
I've heard about this.
So it's kind of neat to see the insights of both teams. It tells us why, like, as much as we just dislike each other, why we can respect our organizations because we don't just fire everybody after every single year.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of neat. I figured you'd be interested in that to check out on one of your road trips or whatever. And, yeah, Saturday, Mike, I just want to say go Ravens.
Okay, Ernie, just settle down, all right? All right, I'm going to hang up on you now. Go Ravens. The Ravens are playing my Steelers. Ernie's a Ravens fan. I am not. I'm a Steelers fan. The other team, the better team in the AFC North. But always good to hear from Ernie on the show. Tom, you're next on the Talkback Hour.
Mike, I think your Steelers are going to be in deep on Saturday.
I know, it's going to be a tough game.
No, but, maybe, Mr. Wilson might be able to pull it out there.
All right.
Now that the dust has settled after the last couple of days and that, and everybody's focusing on Trump and tariffs and everything else, and that comes the new year. If I belonged to the NDP party or contributed to the NDP party, I would be asking for another leader to step in here.
Good point.
For a simple reason is that, he has done nothing. He really has done nothing. He's sitting back, and if it's all about his pension, then this is what my argument is. If it's all about 6 years and getting a guaranteed pension, I'm sorry, just because you got an education, you got money, everything else doesn't mean you're exactly the right candidate or the right person for the job. That being said, they should have another leadership vote, and I'm sorry, he should be showing the door, from that standpoint.
All right, Tom, appreciate the call. It is interesting how all of the focus, Trudeau, Poilievre, Trump, etc., Singh just skates, floats on the breeze. I don't disagree with Tom. It's been a bad week for Jagmeet Singh. Oh, wait. All options are on the table, though. That's what he's got for us this week. Phil, you're on the Talkback Hour. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. I got to talk to you before I'm on a radio range here heading towards St. Mary's. You know where I was Sunday afternoon?
You were in London, weren't you?
Yes.
Oh, I saw you there. That's right. Yes.
Yeah, I commented on you being part of that motley crew.
Yes.
So I'm in the washroom, standing at the urinal.
Oh my God! Hang on, Phil. This is a family show.
Yeah, get the button ready.
All right, my button's ready.
How cold it was in that arena.
Phil.
And
Phil,
the guy beside me said, wait till you go to Sarnia on Wednesday. Their HVAC has not worked for weeks. It's really cold. It makes this place warm. You'll pull out a hair and pee your pants. It's that cold.
Phil.
So wear your long johns tonight.
Okay. All of that to get to wear your long johns tonight. Did you hear? Listen, first of all, not my first rodeo, Philip. Not my first rodeo. Guelph, London, Sarnia. It should be London, Guelph, Sarnia in terms of cold arenas. We know, Fixie and I know how to dress appropriately for the conditions we are walking into. And we are walking into a frigid place tonight, but not as frigid as Guelph and not as frigid as London. And Phil said, get your button ready. I do have a button here. It says dump. And when somebody says something that they ought not say on the radio, I get to push the button, and then you'll never hear it. It's like it never happened. Except earlier this week when one of our guests said something you ought not say on the radio, and I pushed the button, but it didn't work. I'm not asking you to try anything today. I'm pretty sure I saw the engineers in there working on it, so it's fixed. Don't try your luck. But boy, oh boy, when you needed the button and it wasn't there, I had egg on my face, didn't I? It's your 12 o'clock Talkback Hour. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. The opinions are only nonstop if I keep answering the phone. And I'm going to do just that. Back to the Talkback Hour with Michael. Good afternoon, Michael.
Good afternoon, Mike. Happy holidays.
And to you, sir. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I was going to call and talk about my uncanny hockey style with the resemblance to Mitch Marner.
I knew that about you. I thought I recognized that voice. And then when you talked about your hockey style, I thought, reminds me an awful lot of Mitch Marner.
Yeah, I'm just waiting by the phone for the call-up. But an earlier caller said idiots, municipalities, politics. And I thought, that really sets me off. I want to talk really quickly about something, a piece of legislation that was introduced on the last day of the Ontario legislature. It's Bill 242. You up for it?
Absolutely, I am.
All right. So this thing is called, and I think I just want people to know that this is happening. This is a special blend of holiday cruelty from our provincial government. It's called the Safer Municipalities Act, and it does two things. One, it seeks to clamp down on using drugs in public by providing for fines of up to $10,000 or 6 months in jail. So it's already illegal, but that's in this act. That's one thing. But the second thing is it's around trespassing, and so it's solely related to encampments. And under this act, people, surviving in tents, of which there's no lack of them in Waterloo region and beyond, they're given 24 hours notice to vacate, and if they don't, they're eligible for a fine of up to $10,000. And I just thought, this legislation is destined to be completely unhelpful and so expensive. And, it was slipped in the afternoon of the legislature before they recessed for another 80 days. It might come back in March, but my goodness, we need housing, we need shelter, we need supportive housing and more, as you know. And in Waterloo region, I'm deeply concerned. We've got like 2,500 people without shelter or housing, and we've got 548 shelter beds. So it's a piece of legislation that's grounded in politics, not science. And there's an election coming up. There's 3, I think, next year. So continue to urge listeners to pay attention to the politics of the day, as you do.
Thank you, Michael. Really appreciate that. Best of the season to you, sir.
All the best to you, Mike.
Thank you very much. Michael Parkinson, I recognize the voice, and he's been a long-time advocate in that space, a noted local expert on drugs, drug policy. And it's so difficult. We have talked about it, of course, on the show. Yes, this is very much rooted in politics. There's a reason that the bill was introduced on the last day of the fall sitting of the provincial legislature. Of course, it is illegal to use illicit drugs in public. This is a condemnation of where we are at. It's that simple, because we do have no shortage of encampments here in the region and beyond, and a number of people living in those municipalities, this one included, are fed up with what they're seeing. The solutions are not simple. They are not simple. We wish them to be, but they are not. Mary, you're on the Talkback Hour. Good afternoon.
Oh, hi, Mike.
Hi, Mary.
How are you?
I'm good. Where you been?
Well, I've been listening.
Oh, okay.
This is Mr. Mike. I jump out of bed if I sleep in to get your whatever's going on. And I just run downstairs half naked.
Oh, my goodness gracious, Mary.
Well, it's so important to me.
Oh, heavens.
Getting
all hot and bothered in here now. Jiminy Christmas.
Well, listen.
Yeah.
On maybe on a different note, this is our, since 11 years, we have not been home for Christmas. And my stepson, my husband's son, passed away in 2013, I think it was. So it's 11 years we've been away. And maybe we were running away from some stuff, but it seemed just the right thing to do. But you are in my mind, because I understand. And I wish you, your beloved, your whole family, a wonderful, wonderful Christmas. And you know what, Mike? I'm going to miss you for those weeks. You are my number one.
Mary.
And Mike.
Mary.
You're my number one. And you know what? You're going to miss a heck of a a really, really big shoe.
Just like Ed Sullivan, a really big shoe for you. Thanks, Mary.
Have a good Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Mary. You see what we did there? You're not going to miss me while I'm gone. You're going to enjoy the break. Admit it. Your ears will not ring except with the sweet sound of Christmas carols. And don't worry, I'm not going anywhere yet. I'll be back tomorrow. We're not even done with this 12 o'clock Talkback Hour. We'll continue it right after this on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio. I feel bad I was so far behind on my reading. I was busy on the weekend, didn't get to do as deep a dive as I would have liked into the Globe and Mail's second annual list of Canada's most livable cities. It's an analysis of 448 communities based on 50 variables, including transportation, amenities, housing, etc. And in the top 100 of Canada's most livable cities, do you think we see a Kitchener? Do you think we see a Cambridge? Do you think we see a Waterloo? No, and no. But I do know this. It's good to be in Wellington County. Erin comes in at 19. Guelph at 21. Centre Wellington is 75th, and Guelph Aramasa is 87th. Also on the list of the 100 most livable cities in 2024, the highest ranking community in the region of Waterloo. A drum roll, please. Hello, Woolwich. Our township's commitment to fostering a safe, welcoming environment with accessible services and thriving businesses has helped us stand out on the national stage, says Mayor Sandy Shantz. And North Dumfries Township comes in at number 67. But those two, Woolwich at 35th, North Dumfries at 67th, the only two in Waterloo region to make the top 100 most livable cities in Canada. Number one, and number one with a bullet, North Vancouver. I'll see you on the West Coast, baby. Back to the phones on this Talkback Hour. Ibrahim, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. How are you doing?
Good.
Just the guy who was saying that the leader of NDP, he didn't do nothing. How about pharmacare, dental care? Those things without them, it didn't come, right?
Yes.
So why people they don't say?
Well, because he couldn't do it without Justin Trudeau, right? And now, I think.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I understand the people like him. This is politics, Mike. If you look at even the minority, the parties they have, like in Israel, they always you have one party supporting the ruling party. This is everywhere happening. It's not only in Canada. The other thing is also they said, because he's waiting his pension. What do you mean in his pension? He had a business, actually. He put it in his brother's name when I was reading his profile. And also he's a lawyer. He's still young. He can work or he can run. So why always, he's giving not in your show only people or they blaming him. This is politics. So you have to support ruling up with whatever they want to get it. So they are getting whatever they demand. So that's the reason.
I understand. Ibrahim, I'm sorry. I got to run because I'm short on time. Look, it is a consistent narrative that Jagmeet Singh is just trying to hang on until past February the 25th. So he reaches 6 years as an MP and earns that pension. You're not wrong that he's wealthy anyway. But here's the thing about wealthy people. They always like to have more wealth, don't they? And you're talking guaranteed pretty damn fine pension too. That just keeps coming your way after you turn 65. So, anyway, but your point on his already fairly significant wealth is well taken. All right, I got to run. I'm going to get you to Rob Snow, and Now You Know, from 1 until 3 this afternoon. That will be followed by All News Afternoons with Aaron Anderson and Paul McPhee. We will come back tomorrow morning at 9 and start this all over again. What do you say? I'll be here. I hope you will be too. Devin Robertson, our guy on the other side of the glass. Paul Fixter and I will be back with Kitchener Rangers hockey tonight, 6:30, right here on 570 News Radio. My name is Mike Farwell. Bye for now.